It's time for Stan the Fan, Chief Grand Poobah Man, and the Friday Baseball Show. Griffin and Bass helps bring more class to the Friday Baseball Show. They'll talk best games, Dan Charles his name on the Friday Baseball Show. He's been in the owner's suite, he's been doing sports talk since 81. Only lived in Baltimore for 45 years, but we'll give him a break on that one. They'll acknowledge football, don't expect calls, it's the Friday Baseball Show. It's okay to say Glenn's back on Monday, but this is the Friday Baseball Show. Friday Baseball Show. The Friday Baseball Show.
And it is Friday, and we apologize. We had a couple little technical glitches, but we are on the air. Stan the Fan, along with Griffin Bass, who's bringing some class to the Friday Baseball Show. Griffin, I appreciate you doing the show. I know you're down the beach with your family. They're out getting some sun, and you're getting plenty of shade in that hotel room.
That's all right, Stan. I'm happy to be here. Of course, I'm always happy to talk some baseball with you. I wish the Orioles were playing a little bit better, and that we could be, we could have some more pleasant conversations. But they've lost 4 of their last 6 since we last talked, and against 2 teams that they were directly competing with for playoff position.
It wasn't a real positive stretch, but when you sell off, when you sell off an important member of the offense and Taylor Ward, and you don't really replace him with much. It's not surprising that they're not playing that. And it looks like instead of pointing out that we are 2 games or 2.5 games out of the wild card, we seem very close to finishing in last place in the American League.
Yep, that's true. The Blue Jays are playing a little bit better now. They did the whole sell and buy thing where they picked up Jose Soriano, and he had a great start against the Red Sox. Was that Wednesday night, I think? And
yeah,
Red Sox did enough, obviously, in the month of July that it doesn't really matter too much. That if they drop a couple of games here and there, and they still won last night. So yeah, it's the AL East doesn't look like it's gonna be the Orioles year in the AL East, and
no, it does not.
Somehow, Stan, we still woke up this morning. Orioles losing 4 of their last 6, and still 2 games out of a wild card spot, which is
the problem is though that a couple other
mind.
teams are jumping in front. The Tigers have gotten into the mix, and they're playing very hot baseball right now. So it's and it's funny that All-Star break. That All-Star break is now. It's not 81 games and 81 games. It's like 97 games, and then you got we only have 41 games left of the 2026 regular baseball season. Some would say mercifully that's what we have left, but let's run down quickly what we've got on the show today. Peter Schmuck of BaltimoreBaseball.com is going to join us. As you can see him on our screen. He's squinting at us. Are you squinting at us or glaring at us? You're muted, Peter Schmuck. You're muted. You need to unmute yourself. But while Peter's unmuting himself, we'll tell you that Dan Zielinski III of Baseball Prospect Journal will join us at 10:40, and Luke Jackson's going to join us at 11:05. We've got Peter Schmuck now of Baltimore Baseball. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing great, Stan.
Doing better than the Orioles then?
Like all of us, yes.
Yes. Haven't had a chance to really talk much with you since the trade deadline. Are you a pro Rutschman trade for what we got, or you're really upset? It's a gut punch. You know,
I'm a little bit ambivalent on this one, and I usually have a strong opinion one way or the other. But
yeah,
the fact is that for whatever reason, there was no serious talk about extending Rutschman. And I have to think that number one, that's probably because they've already done a bunch of extensions, and now you keep piling them on. Eventually, the owner's going to say, how far are we going with this?
yeah,
And number two, um, you know, I hope Adley has a terrific rest of the season in Boston and next year,
yep,
and signs the biggest contract a catcher ever signed. But what my experience is that he has been inconsistent and injury prone.
yep,
And that may have played into the decision not to pursue him aggressively at the trade deadline as far as a contract because he was on the injured list. And I was a little surprised that the Red Sox were trusting enough of his physical condition. Obviously, they did physicals and they did their due diligence to trade three of their top 5, 6 prospects,
yep,
and really, really beef up the future of the Oriole minor league system if they're all as good as advertised. And that's a big
yeah,
if, because we can go back, and I haven't done it, and I'm sure somebody's done it, go back over not just the Orioles, go back over all the trades that have sent good players for prospects, and then the percentage of prospects who ever play regularly in the major leagues. And I don't think it's a very high number, but because I've looked at a few, and that's disconcerting. But this is one area where Mike Elias is clearly knows what he's doing. If he wants to do that, I don't know that it was necessarily the right thing to do. You're still you're last place and you're a couple games out of the playoffs,
yeah. I
which
know
is a
it's
real
crazy.
indictment. It's a real indictment of Major League Baseball and the fact that every major sport has to keep expanding their playoffs till making the playoffs doesn't mean anything. And that
Right.
angers me.
Yeah.
The Orioles and the Blue Jays should not be in contention right now. They should not be thinking that they can go to the playoffs after playing the way they've played. And what are there, 6 or 7 other teams you could say the same thing about?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's well said. Yeah, I'm less even ambivalent. I was kind of tired of the Adley Rutschman hype machine and what the reality of his career has turned into. You know, my fear is that they've got the same exact dynamic going on with ostensibly their best player in Gunnar Henderson. Are you concerned about what the club should do with Gunnar Henderson, or are you willing to just sort of say, well, this is just a blip on his radar?
Well, I can say this: if they went to Scott Boras and said, let's sign a big extension right now, but it won't be nearly as big as it would be if next year he comes back and has 37 home runs and hits 280.
Right.
I think both sides are smart to sit around and wait till next year.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of where Gunnar is now. All I'm seeing is a loss of confidence, and some bad luck, but bad luck evens out. It really does even out over the long term. And he has had plenty of it. He's hit a lot of balls hard that weren't hits. But the fact is that you can see it on his face after every bat at bat. You can see how he's been advanced scouted. You can tell that by the fact that the guy at second base knows the exact spot to stand for a Gunnar ground ball to second base, and he's hit a ton of them this year. And the second baseman's never had to dive, okay? And that ought to tell you something. And that ought to tell him something too. And one of it is just he simply went from being a patient hitter 2 years ago to being a much more impatient hitter now, and he's got to get that out of his head and go back. And I was encouraged when he let off the game the other day of the walk, and it led to the first run, which meant nothing eventually.
Let me ask you a question about Gunnar, Peter. I wrote a piece back at like the end of April. We had just left Cleveland, and I watched Jose Ramirez play ball. And I said, this is a guy that took way undervalued, but he enjoys playing the game. He never looks like he's pissed off. Um, and I wrote a column that questioned whether Scott Boras was doing the right thing for Gunnar because he was essentially making it a 3-year project that he keeps the value of $400 million on the table. And
Mm-hmm.
that's an awful lot of pressure to put on a young guy when things aren't going right. Suddenly, is his mind playing through that? Boy, I'm not living up to what I'm supposed to be at a higher level of failure than he's used to.
Well, I don't think the $400 million figure is the issue, um, because the interesting thing about baseball is that now you only have to play 2 years in the major leagues to be and have enough money to live comfortably the rest of your life. Gunnar, by the time he gets free agent eligibility, will be up in the, regardless of how he plays, will
Right.
be up to making 10 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay, and at that point, he will have made 20 to $30 million. So
Yep.
I don't think he's sitting around worried about what kind of car he's going to drive. Okay, I think he's worried about not measuring up to his own expectations. I think he's smart enough to understand the money part of it and be able to put that out of his mind. Because
Okay.
I don't think he's a stupid kid. Okay, I've seen him speak. I've been around him. I've talked to him a little. And he's a country boy. I mean, the way he talks. I mean, he's Matthew McConaughey baseball player. I mean, looks a little
Mm-hmm.
like him, talks a little like him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a very likable guy. And like I said, I think he's smart enough to know that $400 million contract is money his great grandchildren may have to
Right.
spend,
Right.
probably won't have to spend.
Right.
Okay, it's such a ridiculous amount, and you look at the Shohei Otani contract and the Juan Soto on these big, huge contracts, and they do make a case for a salary cap because it's stupid money. Those
Yeah.
people, and the only person whose life is affected by the other 500 million of Shohei's contract is his agent, because he's only getting 4% of it,
Yeah.
and he's will never have to work a day in his life, and they still don't. I mean, obviously, the agents make a fortune, but the money has gotten stupid. It's gonna cause a work stoppage because the players aren't going to go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even though all the major sports have salary caps and they're all successful and all their players make a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see the union do, is say, if we are to agree to this, that the minimum salary has to for the young players has to double, and you have to be contributing to additional salary for minor league players. I don't know how you do that. They're
Mm-hmm.
starting to move in that direction, but there's a lot of players that play baseball that end up having no career and no career preparation, who go off into the world and really
Yeah.
have to struggle. And if you're playing in minor leagues for 10 years, you should be accruing some kind of pension.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still doing that for Major League Baseball. They might act like that the minor leagues are separate, but they're not. They're the farm system for Major League Baseball, and these guys should have some kind of something to fall back on if they don't make it, because most of them don't.
Griff, you got a question for
Yeah, I
Peter?
mean, yeah, Peter. I mean, since we're talking about it, it sounds like you're not too optimistic about baseball in 2027. It sounds like we're heading closer to a work stoppage. I mean, a lot of people definitely feel that way after the Dodgers only got stronger at the trade deadline with Tarek Skubal. So, kind of curious how you're kind of viewing that. Do you think there's a way that we can salvage the season, have a partial season, have a full season, or do you think it's possible there's no World Series next year?
Now, Griffin, I'm going to say you're lucky that you probably weren't around for the 94, 95.
I was not. I was not. I'm very fearful though. I'm going to experience it though next year.
And I am too. Um, I I started out this thing a year or
Do we
so.
care? Do we care as much as we used to, Peter?
Well, yeah, because next year the Orioles might be better, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But for Griffin's question, a couple of years ago, when we're looking ahead to this, my opinion was, well, they'll never let 94, 95 happen again. They'll never wipe out a World Series. They'll never do something that stupid. And Rob Manfred was there. He was the engineer of that disaster. But he can't. You make that mistake once, you don't make it twice. Not so sure anymore. And you raised the good question, Griffin. When you look at the Tarek Skubal deal, and you look at Shohei, and you look at Soto and those $700 million contracts, and then factor in that Rob Manfred's the only one around from then, him and I. No, I covered every minute of that, and I watched the owners truly believe they were going to win that and have a salary cap, and they might have got it, except for the current Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor threw the law and everything to the wind and ruled against the owners, declaring an impasse in those negotiations when there clearly was an impasse. They'd been negotiating to a standstill for months and months and months, and she basically said, "I want baseball to start again, so I'm ruling, and I'm striking down the impasse." And that's when the owners gave up, and they and since then they've worked out things that have acted as soft salary caps, and they've had some success with that. And when this is all over, that's what they're going to end up with, is some more aggressive sharing of revenue. But I don't think I know the union is not as strong as it was in those days. And I know that all these owners who are billionaires are not used to people saying no to them. And I've written a column on this for BaltimoreBaseball.com a while back. So I can't say now that they won't try this again and they won't push it hard, because there's no one except Rob Manfred that can remember actually how it felt to them. I mean, those people were alive then. I mean, they're older people. They remember it. But the people who did it, who made those decisions, they're not around anymore. And all the guys and women, whoever, the partners who own all these teams are way richer than they were then. And they were pretty darn rich then.
Yeah.
And so they are people who are used to getting their way. And so we'll see how that goes. Peter Angelos, a lot of people, vilify him because he didn't spend enough money on the Orioles over the years. But he was a little bit of a hero in those days because he wouldn't field a replacement team, which would have been an insult to the fans and would have shown that these billionaires were telling the fans, we don't make enough money, which they certainly do make enough money, and went through with that and wiped out the World Series. I hope that my lack of confidence now that I had a year or two ago is ill-conceived, but I'm not optimistic that there will be that opening day will happen on regularly scheduled opening day 2027.
Pete,
Good question.
The question I have is what you alluded to, that the union isn't as strong as it was back then. Why is that? Is it because the union, in their zealotry at protecting players' rights, have really only protected about, like 10% of the playing population, and the large majority aren't really represented all that well?
Well, I agree with you on that. But the landscape has changed some, because at that time, I think the average player salary was $1.5 million. I'm not sure.
Right. What is it
but it's
today?
what,
What's the average?
I think
million?
it's about 4 million. 4 million
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
I think. Again,
But
I
so much
haven't
of that
looked that up.
5.3.
$5.3 million. So
so
what
much
you
of
have
that
there.
so much of that is decided by so few players, though.
Correct. But more players, the vast majority of players now are millionaires. I mean, that you get to $1 million pretty quick, and that means something. But the union has always been very good at rallying the players and convincing them that they're doing this for them, and they're doing this. The young players were doing this for your future. And if you look back at '94, there were tons of players then that went on to make lots more money because we didn't agree to a salary cap. They can make a very strong argument against the salary cap based on the history of this, and they'll make a strong argument that their lawyers are better than the owner's lawyers, and people generally side with the players when it's all said and done. And to some extent, I do too. Not because I don't think there should be a salary cap. There should be some kind of thing that evens the score for all the players and the minor league players. But the fact is that you don't pay your now $100 a ticket to watch a bunch of guys in suits pick up their phones and talk to each other. You pay guys who wear double mitt jerseys and compete out there to entertain you. And so if they get a bigger piece of the pie, I'll be happy with it. But everybody's got enough already, except the youngest players and the minor league players.
Yeah. Well said. Peter, getting back to the Orioles, where do they go from here? And how strong do you think Mike Elias's position is with this ownership group? David Rubenstein seems like every 2 weeks now is putting out sort of a strong backing for his president of baseball operations. Where do you think the Orioles are right?
Well, I don't necessarily think they have a GM problem, although a lot of people would disagree with me, because whenever a team goes bad, the GM's allowed, and that's just a given. If the Orioles miraculously come back, which wouldn't really be a miracle, since no matter how they play, somehow everybody plays just as bad, and ends up winning 2 playoff series before being eliminated by the Yankees or whoever, then Mike Elias is a genius. Okay, and he gets a start, he gets a do-over, gets to move forward. If they spend the next 2 series going 0-7 and dropping out, there's going to be a lot of people that want a new general manager. The big question there, I always ask the people that write to me and say he's got to go. Well, who do you want instead? I mean, is there some genius out there that's going to change the economic situation for the Orioles, or the minor league situation for the Orioles? Maybe. But guess what? Usually the president of baseball operations is the one that hires that guy. And David Rubenstein is probably not qualified, nor are his partners, to hire that guy. So they might have to actually hire a guy to hire the guy, in a sense. I mean, it's a complicated situation. And I really don't think Mike Elias, I don't think he's the problem. I mean, I think the team, the last year, the one move by Mike Elias that I think was a terrible move was firing Brandon Hyde.
Yeah.
Guy's 2-time manager of the year, and 6 weeks into the season, he can't relate to his team.
Yeah.
And it was, he couldn't relate to the fact that all his starting pitchers were on the injured list. It was just a bad decision that's compounded by the fact, and we've talked about this many times on this show, on radio shows, teams that fire managers remain bad teams. They don't get better generally. Now, they made a great choice with Buck Showalter, and they, and when Elias came in and he was going to have his own guy, he made a great choice with Brandon Hyde, and he should have stuck with it, like the Rays stick with Kevin Cash, who's a great manager, and they know it, even though a couple of bad years have happened in between.
Yep.
Okay, and that goes for football. And I don't have a big problem with the Ravens making a change, because
because it was long overdue.
Harbaugh's been the head coach forever, and at some point, a fresh face is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But if they had, fired Harbaugh back when they had their first losing season in forever, that would have been stupid. He's had a tremendous amount of, you have all this success, and Hyde had it too, but not, Harbaugh, what do you go, playoffs 6 out of the first 7 years? He had a Super Bowl. I mean, his his record was pristine. Brandon Hyde's was too, except for 6 weeks. A tough second half going into the playoffs the year before, and then 6 weeks of the first into the season. I think that was a huge mistake.
Yeah,
that
I agree.
And guess who he's helping be in first place right now. So that ought to tell you something.
Yeah. How much of that decision was based on the pressure starting to build on him, on Mike Elias,
Of course,
that he responded to that? He threw the low hanging fruit to the Sharks.
I think at the time, I think Mike actually almost articulated, he almost said it, which was, well, I'm not going to fire myself.
Right.
That's what happens. You have an owner say, well, it's going to be, I don't know this happened, but you can, sometimes you have an owner say, well, it can be you or it can be him. What's it going to be? Well, that's not a tough decision. And I can't blame Mike Elias for not firing himself.
Yeah.
But I will say this: if they start next year like they started this year, he will not survive that.
Yeah, the seat is going to be very, very hot. We're talking with Peter Schmuck of BaltimoreBaseball.com. Peter, what do you got you're working on right now?
Well, at the moment I'm in a bit of a holding pattern because I want to see how they respond to this 4-game wraparound series with the Jays. I mean the Rays. I'm not optimistic, but they really are this weird team that whenever they lose exactly the same way. They get 1 hit in the first 5 innings or 2 hits in the first 6 innings, and they make 1 really bad defensive play. And whether they're ahead or behind at that point, they lose. And then they wake up 2 days later and they score 9 runs. And then the next day, you got Dean Kramer, who they traded because I think they thought he's done, and he gives up 1 hit over 7 innings.
Yeah.
And that's not, I mean, great job by Dean Kramer. I hope I love the guy. I think he's a good pitcher. I think they kind of did him wrong coming out of spring training, but I think they saw something because of I don't know. But having a pitcher that was one of their better pitchers for several years and then not having him make the team out of spring training, this was a no-brainer at the midseason. And I hope he does well. He's done well. He's done well so far, and I hope he does well.
2 good games for the Minnesota.
Yeah. So I just would like to see. I hate to say it. I'd like to see him go one way or the other. I mean, I know that's a silly thing to say, but my big thing in defending them in the first half, and I said it to many people, and they will that and this is long before it actually happened. I said, you have to remember that no matter how good or how bad a major league team is, every team has 1 7-game winning streak. Every team will have 1 7-game winning. I don't care how bad they are. And so sure enough, they had their 7-game winning streak. So my argument is the same. They're still capable of having a 7-game winning streak, but they better do it pretty soon. And the problem is that now this competition is immeasurably higher than it was during this 2 and 4 span that they just squandered.
Yeah. They've only got 41 games left. The All-Star game now being at like 97, 98 games. There's really not this great amount of time the second half of the season.
All right, I mean, they got to win 25 of them.
Yeah.
And
all right, Peter Schmuck. Really appreciate your coming on with us. Continue your good work with BaltimoreBaseball.com. All right, Peter.
Dan.
All right. We'll be back. We're going to take our first time out of the show, and we'll be back with Dan Zielinski, the third of Baseball Prospect Journal after this.
Don't fumble your fantasy football draft? Host your party at Sports and Social Inside Live Casino. We've got everything you need to make the night a winner with massive screens, cool drinks, great food, and Wi-Fi that won't drop the ball. Reserve your table by August 20th to enter our early draft bonus drawing. Draft like a pro at Live Casino. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Your car is more than just a ride. It's an investment. At Leading Edge Auto Body in Mount Washington, we've spent over 20 years perfecting the art of repair. From high-end imports to your trusted daily driver, we handle all makes and models with elite precision. Our team holds the highest honors in the industry, including ASE Master, iCar Platinum, and specialized aluminum certifications. We make it easy with free towing, pickup, and delivery because at Leading Edge, customer satisfaction comes first. And remember, with insurance, it's your car and it's your choice. Choose the experts. Leading Edge Auto Body. Quality you can see. Service you can trust. Go to leadingedgeautobody.com today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
This is Byron Warnkin. If you've been injured in a car or truck crash, you probably know this is stressful. Medical bills, the insurance company giving you the runaround, you got to get your car fixed. You don't just need a lawyer, you need results. At Warnkin LLC, we represent the injured across Maryland. Whether it's a car or truck crash case, medical malpractice, or any other serious personal injury, we fight for maximum compensation for you and maximum ease for you. You don't want to have to deal with this stuff. Warnkin LLC has been voted best personal injury law firm in Maryland for a reason. For us, 443 Results isn't just a phone number, it's our mission. Get the advocate that you need. Call us today, 443 Results, or visit us online, warnkinlaw.com. That's WARNKENLAW.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
When you feel invisible, exhausted, stressed, or anxious, when you have days that just feel too hard to get through, you are not alone. If you or someone you love is struggling with mental health or problems with drugs or alcohol, help is right in your hands. Call or text 988 to get support whenever you need it. Help is here. Call or text 988. Brought to you by Maryland Department of Health.
Did you change the channel? You did not. You're listening to The Baseball Show with Griffin Bass and Stand-Up Van Charles.
We are back on the Friday Baseball Show, Stan the Fan, along with Griffin Bass. And joining us right now is someone who's become a very popular guest. He's probably sick of me calling him, Dan Zielinski III of Baseball Prospect Journal. Dan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Always enjoy talking baseball with you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Dan, and by the way, Dan's X account is at Dan Zielinski 3. At Dan Zielinski 3. You can follow him on Twitter/X. Dan, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on so badly after the deadline is how much the Orioles minor league system has been impacted by the trade deadline, and they are now number 2 in the minor league, the prospect rankings. Is that an accurate position for the Orioles right now, Dan?
I think so. to me, they're for sure a top five system in baseball with what they've done over the last year between the 2025 draft, the 26 draft, and now the trade deadline. You can make an argument their top five or so prospects at least have all been acquired within the last year. So I really like what they did at the deadline in the Adley Rutschman trade. I like what they did in the draft. They added a lot of guys with some upside, and it's really an intriguing class now for the Orioles here with their top prospects because they got a nice mix, some really high-end position players as well as some really intriguing pitchers too.
Did they get much at last deadline a year ago? I know they got Boston Bateman. Is there much else that they got in those trades?
No, not high-end guys. A lot of either lottery tickets or kind of low ceiling type players. I think obviously this year's trade deadline was a lot more exciting, and I really like the players that got this year compared to last year. Really, I think what's made this system so successful is what they did really this year. But you got guys like an Ike Irish or a few other players from last year's draft too that have supplemented the top of this prospect group for the Orioles.
What's fascinating to me is at the deadline last year, remember they traded Sir Anthony Dominguez for Jerron Watts Brown. And I'm not saying that he's a failed prospect already, but he's nowhere in the top 30 now. Whereas last year he was, I think after the deadline, he was like number 8 or 9 in the Orioles system.
Exactly. I mean, Watts Brown was a guy coming out of Oklahoma State a few years back. That was an intriguing player, but never really performed up to expectations. Ended up being a third round pick in 2023 by the Blue Jays. And was a guy considered, some people thought maybe entering that draft cycle was someone who could be a number 2 type pitcher in pro ball, but really never materialized. And most considered, once that draft rolled around to be maybe a fringe middle of the rotation type guy or back end of the rotation guy. And I think that first off, it speaks to the players the Orioles have brought in that he's not, in their top 30. It also speaks to maybe the lack of development or lack of success, whoever you kind of want to put the blame on there for Watts Brown's, lack of trajectory at this point of his career.
You know what I see when I looked at his numbers recently, and I don't want to spend that much time on Watts Brown, but I see a guy that should be converted to a leverage arm. That's what I see.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, I think at this point too, he's proven he can't thrive or succeed at a high level against lesser competition in the minor leagues as a starter.
Yeah.
Sure, he might be giving you some innings, but just the results aren't there. I think that's a great point. He does have the pitch mix that could thrive in that role using his fastball and breaking pitch to really just kind of dominate hitters in a 1-2 inning type relief appearance. I think that's actually a pretty good idea, especially with some of the starting pitching prospects they now have in their system.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the way you used to talk about DL Hall, Stan, the way that the Orioles wouldn't give up on him being a starter and then eventually
Yeah, well, I've been around. One of the things about getting old is you've been around a long time and you've seen this movie before, and you can waste somebody who actually could help your ball club. You get set in these roles. Dan, I wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned before the onus is now on the organization. They clearly, industry-wide, they're respected for the level of talent they have. If you talk to people in your field, not baseball people that work for teams, but other people in the industry, what do they think of the Orioles' ability to develop players?
That's a great question. To me, it's not great. I mean, we've seen that over the last 5 years. They tore it down to rebuild and hopefully have this wave of young prospects come up and build a championship level team. And I mean, they can't even get into the playoffs, it seems like most years. So it hasn't been great. I think that's a little bit surprising because you brought in Mike Elias, who came from the Astros, and the Astros were well known for their player development system, and it just hasn't materialized. I think part of it is some of it's luck. There's luck, and there's also, guys just didn't pan out. But I think there's also some areas where we've seen the pitching side, especially the Orioles have not developed really any key impact guys at a high enough level. Yeah, sure, they've had, some maybe decent starters or a quality reliever, but nothing, elite that's going to shut down teams. So I think that's the biggest area that they need to see growth on is pitching development because they just haven't had it. The hitters, sure, Jackson Holiday hasn't panned out so far. Still a young guy. Maybe he'll figure it out. And even some of their other guys, while they've produced, they haven't been super. But I think to me, the more bigger concern is on the pitching side because for the Orioles, they're not going to go sign a $300 million pitcher. So you have to be able to develop that from within.
It's interesting. I see the development a little differently now. It seemed like there was Matt Blood, and that was the guy who was in charge of it. Now I see a Mike Schild on the upper level, player development. I see a Forrest Herman on the pitching side of things. With the pitching, I don't think Mike Elias put an awful lot of equity into his pitching program. It's all turned around now. I mean, now I see 14 of the top 30 are pitchers.
Yeah, that's a great point too, and that's something we talked about a lot during the draft time was how the Orioles seem to always pick position players early on in the draft, and then maybe trade for starting pitching with some of their prospects later on. But that's a great point. I think I'm curious really to see they've got a group of pitchers towards the top of their farm system in Double A mostly, and a few guys in Triple A that we're going to see in the next year and a half what some of these guys are made of. So I think, the returns are going to show themselves here relatively soon. If, the Orioles pitching development is legit or, if they've got some work to do still in that area.
Griff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I mentioned a couple of those names that you're obviously referencing, Dan, and I mean, it's interesting. You look at Joseph Zerwa and Caden Hunter, who kind of came out of nowhere, at least this season. To both guys that were drafted last year, and that development side that they've been having a really good 2026. So hopefully that continues. And then Anthony Ianson, who immediately jumps into the top two in the whole system, who was the prize of the Adley Rutschman deal. What do you think could be a realistic timetable for him, assuming he continues to progress and obviously health?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Anthony Ianson. As I was telling Stan right after the trade happened for Adley Rutschman, I couldn't believe what the Red Sox gave up to acquire Adley Rutschman. I know he's got a year and a half of team control, but he's just not. Sure, he was an all-star this year, but he's not a superstar. He's not a top five catcher in the sport. But the Red Sox paid up, and Ianson especially. He's a guy that could be a number two starter down the line. A big-time fastball, two really good breaking pitches, and even throws in a splitter that's really solid as well. But he's someone that really has the complete mix when it comes to the pitching side. And I really like his fastball and how it plays. He's got the velocity, it has some movement, and he's really progressed throughout his career. He does a nice job of filling the strike zone and is super athletic on the mound. I think he's a guy that definitely could be in the major leagues next year. It really depends, how aggressive the Orioles want to be. First off, obviously, is there a season? But then do they want to start him in the major leagues right away, or do they start him in the minor leagues and call him up, say, in June? To me, if I was the Orioles, I'd have him in AAA right now. I don't think there's anything left for him to prove in AA. I would let him go to AAA, see how he does the rest of the year, and to me, I would start him in the major leagues next year. I think Ianson's super close. I think he's really good and excited to see his future with the Orioles.
Another guy that's really close. And it's kind of funny that they had Michael Frett in the organization last year, traded him, and now they bring him back in the Tyler Wells deal. How much do you know about Michael Frett? And he's a guy who is in AAA and has been pitching pretty well.
Yeah, like you said, he's had a really nice year this year, had a really good year last year too, and someone that again he attacks the strike zone. He's had big strikeout numbers this year. He's not maybe as sexy of a prospect as Ianson, but he just does everything really well. Really balanced pitch mix, decent fastball velocity. Breaking pitches work and get swings and misses. He's a guy that, again, like you said, really close to me, another guy that I could see in the mix in 2027 to break camp with a major league club if all things go well. Might not have the upside as an Ianson, but I think he could be a quality major league starter in the future.
Interesting. the impact of the two people I've talked to you about a moment ago, Mike Schild and Forrest Herman, when you talk to people in the industry, are they respected for what they're doing now with the Orioles organization?
I think so. A lot of it comes down to it's a results driven business, right? So it's going to, time will tell what these guys are able to accomplish. They're certainly respected in regards to what they've done in the past and the success they've had, but it's going to come down to, what can they do with the Orioles, especially, in a situation where the organization's at where it's kind of, the first rebuild a few years ago hasn't panned out. So they're kind of in this mini, step back in hopes of, figuring it out in the next couple of years. So time will tell. I think people are really intrigued with this farm system, like we talked about, for sure, in my mind, one of the top 5 systems in baseball, if not even better than that. So, and you got guys that are relatively on the verge of the major leagues. So it's not like you're taking a 16, 17, 18-year-old, foreign born kid and trying to just develop him from scratch almost. You got guys that have pitched or played in the minor leagues. They have some experience. They've had success. Now it's just a matter of maximizing those skills to get them major league ready.
Let me ask you a question. The number of pitching prospects now, can that be a little bit of fool's gold in terms of re-signing Trevor Rogers? In other words, I think I see where the club is heading with this. I think they'll be competitive to bring him back, but can they be misled by saying, well, we got Florette, we got Ianson, we got all this stuff. This is a guy that's sort of a proven major league pitcher right now. Would you be fooled by what you're seeing with Brandon Young and those prospects, where you just say, well, we'll let him walk because $140 million is too much money?
No, see, my mindset would be, and if I'm the Orioles, I think it's important that you have at least a couple veteran arms in that rotation. It's tough to have a rotation filled with young guys, especially that don't have experience. You need at least a couple of those veteran guys to mentor these younger pitchers. Is it Trevor Rogers? I don't know. It depends how much the Orioles want to spend, but I think you need at least 2 or 3 veteran guys in there. First off, because when you call these young guys up, they're not going to pitch a ton of innings. We've seen Major League Baseball teams like to be very conservative with their young pitchers and not want to, overdo it with the workload. So you need numbers in that regard. And you also need guys that have been there, done that, know what it takes to pitch 6 innings, have success the third time through the lineup. So I think having some veteran experience in the rotation is really key for development and also just overall team success.
Dan, one of the people I mentioned just a second ago is Brandon Young, unheralded, but undrafted free agent that the Orioles signed, and he's been fantastic this year. Compared to what we thought we'd get out of him. How often have you seen teams get fooled by penciling him in as a guy that'll pitch 180 innings next year, win 13, 14 games, and they take a step back? Does that happen a lot in your observations?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. It's pitching development is so finicky and so difficult that teams, have really leaned on, the pitch mixes and what guys throw and can they get the most out of them. But there's always guys, as someone who lives in Milwaukee and has covered the Milwaukee Brewers for many years, the Brewers are a prime example of that. They've taken guys off the street. They've taken unknown prospects and turned them into major league starters. So I think it happens more than you would think just because it's so tough to develop pitching and, one injury sometimes can, ruin a guy's, potential trajectory, career. So I think it happens more than you think, but, it's always a risk. There's always, difficulties on both sides of whether it's a top prospect versus a guy that's kind of an unknown. It's just all about kind of consistency, development, and hopefully, Young, for example, can do it again next year, because that's really the tell sign is once, teams know a pitcher, have seen him at least once or twice. How does a pitcher then come back and kind of adjust to what, hitters are doing, because the hitters know kind of have a game plan against those pitchers as well.
A pitcher is not an Oriole prospect, and he's more than a prospect, is Paul Skeens.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his sophomore season. He's suffering some little bit of the sophomore jinx, isn't he?
Yeah, Paul Skeens is an interesting case because he said how he's not trying to throw as hard because he's trying to, go longer in games and, prolong his career, and, doesn't necessarily need to use his velocity to get guys out. But, the numbers show that when he was throwing harder, he was having more success. So part of me wonders if there's a little bit more to that story than that's being released by him and the Pirates. What's really unique too about the Pirates, in my mind, is I think they've got a team that could be a dangerous playoff team if they got in, but they have pitchers like a Paul Skeens, for example, that have underperformed this year. Because if their pitching staff perform, those starters, to the expectations and level that they've shown at times throughout their career, they could be a dangerous team. But they need someone like a Paul Skeens to be Paul Skeens of 2024 and 2025 in order for them to even have a chance to make the postseason.
Griff, go ahead.
I guess what position players for the Orioles are you most excited about coming up, Dan? I mean, it's really unfortunate. Ike Irish had a season-ending injury in July, and he was having a fantastic year at Single A with Frederick. But Vihila Lloyd just got promoted to Double A. I saw Brandon Butterworth he's not one of their top 10 prospects, but Butterworth just got promoted to Triple A for the Orioles. And then obviously Eric Booth Jr. Is there anyone I didn't mention?
Yeah. First off, with Ike Irish, a huge fan of his, have been a big fan of his throughout college, even when he was in high school. Disappointing that injury happened because, I really like his potential. I'm curious to see how a guy like Ty Head, I know he was just a recent draft pick, how he does in this limited sample size he gets between now and the end of the year. He was a guy that was kind of a high risk, high reward type player at NC State. Was a guy with a lot of speed, kind of reminded me a little bit of a Vance Honeycutt type player. I'm curious to see how he adjusts to pro ball and, what he's able to accomplish over this next month, because being a second round pick, there's definitely some high expectations for him to produce and move through the system quickly, but he didn't always have the consistency and really struggled at times at the plate at NC State. So I'm curious to see how Ty Head does over this next year or over this next month, leading in then to his first full year next year. I'm not a big Enrique Bradfield Jr. type guy.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
Again,
the speed and defense are undeniable.
Exactly. And this is the same argument, I've had with people, or conversation I've had with people since he's been in college. Great defensively, great speed, but he doesn't hit enough. And again, in the major leagues or in professional baseball, he hasn't hit enough. And definitely, I'm not even more concerned about, impacting the baseball, because we've seen guys have success without hitting a lot of home runs, but he's not even getting on base to use that speed or put the ball in play to have success and driving the baseball into the gap. So I think Enrique Bradfield and the Orioles are in a tough spot because 17th overall pick in 2023, and he really never has had a great full season since he's joined the organization. So I think next year is a big year for him and kind of the future of what's going to happen with Enrique Bradfield. So not having a great year this year, next year is a big year for him.
Last thing I've got for you, Dan, we focus so much on those pitching prospects acquired. Tell me a little bit about what you know about Endy Azekar, Harold Rivas, who were the two guys we got from Boston that weren't pitchers, and also the guy we got back who's number 24 in the Orioles system right now, and that is Jamnardo Reyes, the outfield.
Yeah. Azekar, he's a guy that is more power over average at this point. Defensively, he's solid. He's nothing special, but he's definitely a guy that can handle the outfield position. And still a young player. I'm curious to see how he does. He needs to really improve that hit tool because the power is there, but he's got to be able to tap into that power more consistently. We've seen him have a really good year overall this season. definitely an improvement from last year as well, and someone that still strikes out at a high clip, but still a young player. So I'm curious to see how he does moving forward. And you talk about Rivas. He's a guy that was kind of the last piece in that deal from the Red Sox, and someone that's really intriguing to me because he's really quick. I think is someone that can handle center field long term because of that speed, above average arm strength. And people have compared him to George Springer because he's from Venezuela, because of just the way he plays. And he's someone that's, had some success, but is still extremely young at 18 years old. But the tools are there that if he can put it all together and figure it out at the plate, he could be a well-rounded player in the future. And then your last guy that you mentioned was
Gimnardo Reyes.
Yeah, Reyes. He's another guy that maybe hasn't had quite the year people expected him to have after last season. Another guy that's more power over hit, but someone that, again, big ceiling for him. I think the one thing with all three of these guys is they all carry a lot of risk, but they also have super high ceilings too. So I think if you're the Orioles and you're just kind of, looking at it in general, if you can hit on one of these guys and get an all-star out of one of the three, that's successful in my mind, because they all carry risk. All are solid in the outfield defensively. It's really going to come down to that hit tool for all three of them, and if they can, impact the baseball at a high enough clip.
All right. He is Dan Zielinski III. He is with Baseball Prospect Journal, and we appreciate it again. And follow him on X at Dan Zielinski, the number 3. And he does a great job. Dan, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thanks, guys. Always enjoy it. We'll talk soon.
All right. There you have Dan Zielinski.
Thank you, Dan. Stan, we'll take a break. Before we do that, I do want to make sure I remind folks of countysports.zone. They all have to go over to countysports.zone. Stan, check out the latest on high school sports all around the state, of course. And I mean, high school football, almost said college. High school football is right around the corner, and all the high school sports are right around the corner. College sports have already started, Stan. Can you believe that? College sports have already started.
Unbelievable.
Soccer has started this week.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. But high school sports are coming, so make sure you can find all the schedules, all the
What are the high schools? What are the high school sports?
Well, the fall sports, there's football. Obviously, you're going to have soccer. You're going to have volleyball. Those are the big ones. Everybody's boys and girls soccer.
Field hockey.
Field hockey. Thank you for reminding me. And you can find the list of all the sports. Then flag football is a big thing. It's now here in Maryland, so flag football. You can find their girls flag football.
Mud wrestling is mud wrestling.
I don't think that one's been I don't think that one's a varsity sport just yet.
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right.
I don't think so. But you can find all the list of all the sports and schedules and teams, every county, every sport. Go to countysports.zone, powered by buyatoyota.com. Stan.
All right. We'll take a timeout now. When we get back, Luke Jackson joins us to talk about what the Red Sox got in that deal. A guy named Adley Rutschman. We'll also have a look at this week in the rest of baseball before we get out of here with Griffin Bass. We'll be right back.
This is Stan the Fan. You know we talk all the time about our O's stepping up in the big moments, delivering when it matters most. If you've been injured in a car accident anywhere around Baltimore, that's your big moment, and you need someone who delivers. That's why I'm here to tell you about Warnken Injury Lawyers. They fight for Baltimore families every single day. Insurance companies play games. Warnken plays to win. So call 443-RESULTS. That's 443-RESULTS, or go to warnkenlaw.com. When you need results, it's right there in the number, 443-RESULTS.
Your car is more than just a ride. It's an investment. At Leading Edge Auto Body in Mount Washington, we've spent over 20 years perfecting the art of repair. From high-end imports to your trusted daily driver, we handle all makes and models with elite precision. Our team holds the highest honors in the industry, including ASE Master, iCar Platinum, and specialized aluminum certifications. We make it easy with free towing, pickup, and delivery, because at Leading Edge, customer satisfaction comes first. And remember, with insurance, it's your car and it's your choice. Choose the experts. Leading Edge Auto Body. Quality you can see. Service you can trust. Go to leadingedgeautobody.com today.
When you feel invisible, exhausted, stressed, or anxious, when you have days that just feel too hard to get through, you are not alone. If you or someone you love is struggling with mental health or problems with drugs or alcohol, help is right in your hands. Call or text 988 to get support whenever you need it. Help is here. Call or text 988. Brought to you by Maryland Department of Health.
Don't fumble your fantasy football draft. Host your party at Sports and Social inside Live Casino. We've got everything you need to make the night a winner with massive screens, cool drinks, great food, and Wi-Fi that won't drop the ball. Reserve your table by August 20th to enter our early draft bonus drawing. Draft like a pro at Live Casino. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Dave LaMonaco profiles Orioles play-by-play voice Kevin Brown, looking at his rise as an amiable mainstay and one of the top voices in all of baseball. Also inside, Antonio Barbera looks at whether the championship window is narrowing for the Ravens veteran core, and our special travel section with a look at sports tourism options throughout Maryland for you and your family to enjoy this summer. Press Box is available for free at over 250 locations throughout the region, including your Baltimore area High's Dairy stores. Plus, you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
It's Gus Johnson, and you're listening to the Baseball Show with Griffin Bass. It's the Fan Charles!
We are back. Stan the Fan, Griffin Bass, and managing editor of PressBox, PressBoxOnline.com, and a co-host of the Monday baseball chats with Ross Grimsley and myself.
Do you know what time you guys are going on Monday, Stan?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
So it's always in flux. What time is the Oriole game Monday?
They moved to 6. Yeah, 6.
Moved it to 6, and I guess we'll go at 5. Go at 5.
You can find those on the PressBox online YouTube and Facebook.
And I'll be on as long as a storm doesn't roll through to knock out my internet. So,
is that something that could happen on Monday?
That happened
last Monday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Sorry.
Have you gotten? Are you back up and running now?
Apparently.
Okay. All right. Good. Good to have you. Hey, we focused so much on what the Orioles got in the Adley Rutschman deal. How did the Red Sox do in that deal, Luke?
They're going to end up doing fine in that deal. You and I were joking about Adley having a day off after 2 nights of catching.
Well, it's rigorous. Pretty rigorous.
But yeah, I mean, I would bat him lower in the order than they are right now. They batted him 3rd each of the 2 days that he was in. I thought that he was finally going to go to a place where he could hit like 6th or 7th and just catch. And nope, they've got him hitting 3rd. They've
got him in a highly pressurized position.
And like I was joking with you, just texting, like this guy's got a hex over the entire league over what he was supposed to be. So, but yeah, I mean, you look at like what he'll put up with the bat. He's going to hit 275, 340, 430, something like that. And compared to what the Red Sox were getting out of their catchers, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good because they were getting nothing out of their catchers, and so he'll be helpful, and he certainly adds to their lineup.
Yeah, you buy the Red Sox. Do you think their run of 36-8 or whatever it was until their losing streak? You think they're a threat to make it to the World Series?
Sure, because it's not like anybody in the American League is fantastic. I mean,
right.
I think you can certainly make that argument about Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I think you can certainly make that argument about New York if Aaron Judge comes back healthy, and it looks like that's going to be more of a September thing. So I
Yeah.
don't know what that is going to look like once he does come back. He's going to end up missing about 3 months, maybe more. And they also need to get Stanton and Bellinger back. I think Stanton and Bellinger are closer. So if the Yankees have a full lineup, I think, especially with their rotation, they've got a chance to be a really, really good team in October. But I feel like in a short series, the Red Sox match up pretty well with either Tampa or New York because, I mean, Boston has a really good rotation. Peyton Tolley yesterday ate scoreless. He's been
And
one of the
there's
big.
and there's no talk about Garrett Crochet coming back.
I
I don't
haven't heard
hear.
anything
I haven't
solid.
heard anything. Yeah.
But Tolley's been one of the breakout stars this season. Sonny Gray was a great pickup for them. They've pitched. There's
Yeah.
no question about it. Of course, there was going to be a market correction that came. I mean, what were they, like 38-6 at one point? So, if they continued on that pace, they would have ended up winning the division. So, but yeah, I think they've got a chance to make a run in October, sure. I mean, they've played as well as anybody since about June 1.
Griff, go ahead.
I guess well, the Adley thing kind of still intriguing me. Like, do you think does this trade put even more pressure on him now? Again, like the Red Sox batting him third the first two nights. Like, and by all accounts, this was a haul the Orioles got. Everybody loves this Anthony Ianson kid, and I do too. I mean, after we
And
talked to him.
Luke actually went to see him Saturday.
Yeah.
I
What did
saw
you?
him on
Yeah.
Saturday.
We talked. Glenn and I talked to him yesterday. I mean, he was incredible. Like he seems like he's got a great head on his shoulders, and he touches. He's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna do it consistently, but he
Wait a
can touch
minute, he's
100.
got a
100.
head. He's got a head on his shoulders.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
He
a good
does.
start,
Wow.
Stan.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, look at because does Gunnar Henderson have a head on his shoulders right now? I mean, come on. Like,
I'll say he's got a head on him.
but I mean, is that gonna force the Red Sox to try and make him a three-hole hitter, a top five hitter in their lineup? The fact that they had to give up three, massive
Well,
prospects.
obviously, that's what they thought they were getting.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been that kind of guy for quite a while. He was that guy first half
the
of
first
24.
month.
Yeah. And then the first month this year, he was really good. The bat's been kind of soft since about May 1. He's been on the IL a few times. One just like totally fluke, the concussion. I mean, he gets hit in the head running up the first baseline. I mean, that's the story of his past
But if
couple
you're
calendar years.
Luke, if you're a 1-1, you should see that ball coming. And
Oh
avoid it.
yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, like I say, I think he'll be fine. In terms of Ianson and what I saw, he pitched 5 innings. I mean, I think he's
Struck out.
21 years old still. He
Struck
struck out
out 9.
9. I mean, he spots his breaking balls as well as you're going to see. And if you go to a game in Bowie, I think they've got 2 home series left, and you sit behind home plate, you're like, after 1 inning, you're going to be like, oh my God, this guy reminds me of Kyle Bradish. I mean, his delivery, his mannerisms, and the way he pitches, the multiple breaking balls that can get out left and right-handed hitters, very similar to Kyle Bradish. And so I know what the Orioles were attracted by because they like that kind of delivery. They like the ability to spot multiple breaking balls. So that was interesting. I think as he goes along, he's going to have to become a little more aggressive with his fastball and command his fastball a little bit better early in the count to get ahead. Because right now, the command of his breaking balls are so good that he can get ahead with those. He can put guys away with those at that level. As he rises, he's going to have to become, in my opinion, more aggressive and a little more effective with the fastball. That's just my observation. Like, he was touching.
That's who we're talking to.
Yeah. Like, he was touching like really high 90s velos early in the season. He was more 93, 95, which is fine. He was 93, 95 when I saw him for the most part. He touched 97 in the first inning. By the 5th inning, he was 91, 93. So he's going to have some work to do in terms of holding his velocity. Like let me say this: every pitching prospect outside of the top two or three who are inaccessible via trade have stuff to work on. Like, and Anthony Ianson fits right into that mold. Um, so I liked what I saw. I did. But I also understood why ultimately the Red Sox were comfortable giving him up to lead off a package for a guy they think can help right now, because he's a little bit green in terms of um, his fastball for me, and he's got some work to do in that regard. So it's not like this guy was going to be in their opening day rotation next year. So it's one of those things where I totally saw why the Orioles wanted him, but I also saw why ultimately the Red Sox were comfortable giving up for Rutschman. And that's where a deal comes together, right?
Yep.
So he was a fun watch. Like, if you guys want to go see him in one of these last two home series, definitely go see him, because it's unusual to see a 21-year-old be able to spot breaking balls as well as this guy does.
Luke, getting back to Rutschman for a second, what would have to go? What would do you think that they made this trade with every intention of trying to sign Rutschman, or are they going to take a wait and see attitude before seeing what they're comfortable offering him?
Probably more the latter, because for me, when you give up this package, you're giving up this package for a year and a half. That's what, and then if you extend him, that's what the money's for.
Yeah.
Now, I think from the Orioles' perspective, they also didn't know what next year is going to look like. And so it could be a 120 game season. Who knows what it's going to be? And I think they saw this as the final time that they could extract full value or close to full value for Adley Rutschman. Because if next year ends up being like a 120 game season, what the heck are you going to get for Adley Rutschman ahead of a 120 game season? Probably not a ton. What the heck are you going to get for Adley Rutschman at the trade deadline of a shortened
Right, when
season
there's
where there might only be like
there's only
60
40
games left or
games left,
40
right.
games left or whatever it is?
Yeah.
I think they really saw this as their last time. If they weren't going to extend him, which obviously they couldn't come to any sort of agreement, I'm guessing that the Orioles were talking more like 4 or 5 years, and Adley wanted to be an Oriole for life, and whatever the case may be. It doesn't seem like they were anywhere close on an extension. Then this is what you do. You don't want the situation to linger like it did with Manny.
All right. We talked about Ianson. I don't know if you've seen Zerwa yet, but what are you hearing about Zerwa?
Well, I've only seen Zerwa when he was pitching in a televised game during spring training.
Okay.
And like I saw one inning, and I was like, wow, that's the best pitching prospect in the system.
Yeah.
And because he's tall, he's 6'8", he's got a little bit of a funky angle, but he fills up the strike zone as well as any Orioles pitching prospect I've seen in quite some time. He just throws a ton of strikes, and he's got a really good changeup. And the difference for him is going to be going forward whether he can develop some sort of breaking ball that gives him a really good third pitch. Because right now, I was talking about with Ianson, that with the way he commands his breaking balls, he can rip through the minor leagues. Well, with Zerwa, with the way he throws strikes and the fastball changeup combination, he can rip through the minor leagues. And the question for him is going to be the breaking ball, whereas with Ianson, the question is, like, for me, fastball command. So I I think that they're both, really good pitching prospects. Zerwa reminds me a little bit of Trevor Rogers, and I wonder how that affects how they handle the Trevor Rogers situation after the season. Like, do they think that in Zerwa they have a cheaper version of Trevor Rogers who's like half a season away? I don't know the answer to that.
Right. Yeah.
We talked to Dan Zielinski about it, and he was in agreement with me that it's still vitally important that the Orioles have veterans at the head of that pitching You
No, I
know,
don't disagree. I don't disagree.
yeah. But
And
I'm
I do wonder with Rodgers. So he's probably going to get the qualifying offer, and then there's a 5-day period
right.
where the player and his agent have to decide whether to take it or not. I wonder
He's
if in
not
that
going to.
five,
I don't think he's going to.
but I do wonder in the past, guys have quickly come to agreements with the team that has qualified them. And I wonder if
Hmm.
that's something that happens here. And I don't know what that deal would
Yeah.
look like. So,
Right.
I tend to believe he's an honest, forthright guy, and that his stated goal of being an Oriole is true,
right,
and his agent can clearly talk him out of that
right,
if it's a difference between 20 and
right.
30 million
And
dollars
look, I
more to
mean, he's
him.
got like 8 more starts left and stuff can
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Luke, where do you think the club is now positionally? Forget the pitching. We feel that the pitching is in a pretty good place developmentally. It's
Hmm.
going to depend on how they develop them. But positionally, are there players coming through the system that can help the team in the short term, or is this offseason going to be important to maybe make a trade for an outfielder and maybe sign a free agent outfielder?
So I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, when I saw on Twitter that Brandon Nimmo is having a really nice season for Texas. It's now
Texas,
about Brandon Nimmo, but the
right,
idea was that he was on what appeared to be a somewhat onerous contract with the Mets that they wanted to
right,
get rid of because they had some young outfielders coming up and they needed
right.
to create some room. I wonder if there's another contract or two out there like that for a guy who's still a good player, but for whatever reason, the team that is holding that contract wants to move on. And I haven't dug into it about who those outfielders may be, but I wonder if there's a creative deal to be made like Texas did with Brandon Nimmo to bring because they need outfield help all the way
Yeah,
around. This
there's no
outfield needs to be
question of that.
redone. And so I think they're going to have to look at multiple avenues to try to add some
Here-
talent to the outfield.
Here's a
The
here's a
free agent, go
here's
ahead.
a player that I looked at last night. I happened to be watching the Milwaukee Dodger game, and Jake Bowers came up, and I saw he's having a really. I knew he was having a nice year. He got the big hit off of Vezia to drive into winning the go ahead run, and they won the game. He's on a $2 million, $2.7 million
Mhm.
expiring contract. He's having the best year of his career by far. 21 homers, 69 RBIs, and he's sort of like a Ryan O'Hearn. He's a
Mhm.
first baseman outfielder. I don't know if he's as good as O'Hearn as an outfielder, but his contract, he's a free agent this year. He seems like a guy at his age that 3 years, 25 million, you'd have this guy for 3 years. Is he a guy that interests you at all?
I don't know. I haven't thought about Jake Bowers in quite a while. This is the first time that he's been brought up to me.
Yeah.
I don't know, Griffin. What do you think? Is this the first time you thought about great Jake Bowers in a while?
As an Oriole, yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I mean, yeah, he's definitely very Ryan O'Hearn-esque, like a big lefty, not a ton of movement, can probably play a serviceable, you know, first base and
He's a serviceable outfielder.
is he? All right, if
You
you say so.
face you face 70% right-handed pitching. To
Well, I pulled it up
me,
while you guys were talking.
yeah,
So unrestricted free agents: George Springer, Trent Grisham, they'll get qualifying offers, but we'll see.
yeah.
Ian Happ,
Nope.
Seiya Suzuki, Randy Arozarena,
I'm
Taylor
I'm
Ward,
interested.
Dalton
I'm interested
Varsho.
in Bowers and a Rosarena. That's my
It's
Arozarena would be,
it's
yeah,
not a great free agent class for bats.
right.
And for like to me, that's
Luis Robert.
part of the reason why the Orioles were probably so aggressive last offseason with Schwarber and Alonso was that
Yeah,
they knew there wasn't going to be a whole lot in the way of free agent bats this offseason. And like if you need outfield help, like you said, it's like Randy Arozarena and Seiya Suzuki and Ian Happ. And if you need infield help, it's Jazz Chisholm and Luis Arise. And it's just,
You
it's
put
not, it's a pretty bleak
Well, that's
free
why
agent class for bat.
Bowers. I looked at him and the dollars it would take to get him, and I think between him and a Rosarena, if you had
I
two
would have rather
outfielders,
keep Brian O'Hearn.
well, that's that horse left the barn 2 years ago.
Yeah,
a
I
year
know,
and
I
a half.
know, I know.
I agree with you.
The one thing about Bowers for me is that you would have to determine whether this is a fluky outlier season for him in a
Right.
contract year or if he figured something out this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that.
Well, the one thing that's impressive,
he's going to be 31 next year.
I know, is over his last 2 or 3 seasons, his on base percentage has been fairly impressive. You know, I think he's at like a 355 right now, something like that.
He's getting on base 375 this season, 353 last year. He was terrible in 2024.
Yeah,
he was not good.
He was a very disappointing prospect for a long time. But again, when you weigh what you have, but in other words, Enrique Bradfield's not coming up and being an everyday outfielder. Lance Honeycutt's not coming up and being an everyday outfielder.
You don't think so?
No. I don't think Christian Franklin's going to be an everyday outfielder.
Why not? He gets leadoff walks sometimes.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the cost of acquisition versus what would be possible, and Jake Bowers jumped out at me as somebody that I like.
Yeah,
and I don't think Milwaukee's going to get into a heavy bidding war with him.
No, probably not. But yeah, I think you can get creative to fill out this outfield. I don't know who among the current outfield is going to be back with the club next year. Colton Cowser can really go get it. Tyler O'Neill has a year left on his contract. And then
I would think he's here.
If they didn't get rid of him earlier this season, they're going to play him out.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely at this point are going to hold on to him to see what next season looks like.
Yeah,
because you don't want to end up in the Marlins Wei-Yin Chen situation. Do you remember when they cut him right before the pandemic hit?
Right.
So they owed him the full freight that season.
Right.
Even though,
it
ended up being a 60-game season, if they had just held on to him, they would have owed him like a third of what he eventually got. And so there was, I think there was one player. I think there was one player who got paid in full for that COVID season, and it was Wei-Yin Chen.
That's funny. That's funny. Good for Wei-Yin Chen. He deserved it. He was a good guy.
Luke, we're gonna let you go with that. That's a great.
I want to ask Luke one more.
Go ahead.
What's Mike Elias's future, Luke? Is he he's the GM next year? What if this completely? I mean, I looked at the next 10 games. Stan and I were talking about it before the show. The next 10 games, 7 against Tampa, 3 against the Yankees. I mean, I don't think they go 0-10, but
probably not.
If this thing completely collapses.
Yeah. So if the bottom totally falls out on this team and it gets embarrassing, I think Mike Arrighetti and David Rubenstein might think about finally hiring their own guy. If that doesn't happen, I think Mike gets another year and he enters next year firmly on the hot seat, in my opinion.
If they get rid of Elias, Albernaz as well is gone.
I'm sure, because any GM is going to want to hire their own manager, I would think. Right?
Yeah. Unless Buck Showalter was your manager and you
right, then you don't get to do that. Yeah,
you don't get to do that. All right, Luke, thank you very much. We'll see you Monday, correct? New issue of Press Box is out next week.
Yes, next week. So whether it gets delivered on Tuesday or Wednesday, who the heck knows, Stan?
Who the hell knows? Yeah.
But
where can people get that new issue?
Well, it'll be in the office by Wednesday, but it'll take a few days for Stan and his drivers to spread the
It'll be out by midweek next week. Yeah.
But people can find those at all the High's Dairy stores, among other locations.
Yeah, over 350 locations.
350?
Wow.
How? Personally delivered to by Stan.
Wow.
It's all
Not all,
350.
not all 350.
Oh, okay. I thought you personally delivered them to all
Especially
the
with the new hip. I'll be
all the
delivering
highs.
very few. I'll be delivering
All the
very
highs
few.
stores plus PressBoxOnline.com as well.
All right, and the cover story is the Minter effect.
Yes.
Whoa.
All right.
Interesting.
Have we seen the story yet, Luke?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Can you send it to me?
Sure.
Love to read it. Love to read it. All right, that's Luke Jackson. He and I and Ross Grimsley Monday at 5:00. When we get back, are we taking a timeout?
No. We can jump right
Okay.
into our
All right, we're
right
going
into
to jump
our
right into
Bye.
this week
Oh.
in the rest of baseball. Here's Cynthia Berman telling you who's bringing you that.
You ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, Stan, hold on.
Yep.
Let's get this week in the rest of baseball. I want to make sure
Are you keeping Luke with us for the rest
Am
of
I
the
Our
staying
proper
or
intro.
this week in baseball or not?
Oh,
No, you're
Luke,
not
Luke,
part
you're
of
welcome to
this.
stay.
I'm staying.
All right, Luke is staying.
What? He can stay. Busy week in the around the rest of baseball, of course. Hold on, music's still playing on my end. There we go. Busy week in baseball. I guess we can start with last night, the Field of Dreams game. It was fine, I guess. You know, I didn't watch the full game. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber leads the game off with the home run. He ends up hitting 2 home runs. A lot of people were upset-ish, I guess, about it being on Netflix. Did you guys have any issue with it being on Netflix? Did that cause any issues in the Jackson or
Netflix,
Charles?
so I have Netflix. So
Right.
it
I mean,
wasn't a
everyone has
big deal.
Netflix.
Not everybody,
Yeah,
but a lot of people have it on Netflix.
I go back and forth, you know. But other than that, I don't think that was that big of a deal. The score bug was huge. So Netflix. This was the second Netflix game. They had a home run derby, but that wasn't a game. They had the opening day game with the Giants and the Yankees, and the score bug was really weird. Like it was like a vertical score bug almost. But it still took up it felt like a third of the screen almost. I'm gonna try and share the video with everybody here, so that way we can, because visuals are always. I guess it wasn't that bad, but this was the opening day. Hold on, This was the opening day score bug right here, down here in the right hand corner, and I mean, I guess it was fine. You know, the names were really small, I guess, but it was that was what the opening day score bug. Then of course they had they had last night's game, and Stan and I were talking about this as well before the show. Nothing's going to compare to that first 2022 Field of Dreams game with the Yankees and the White Sox, where it was probably the best game of the season, and
it was the worst game in my season.
Oh, because
I had Zach Britton and Liam Hendricks, and they traded giving up runs over. It was unbelievable. You couldn't imagine both closers having a worse game than the two of them. They must have given up 8 runs in like a third of an inning.
I will say that's
fantasy-wise.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead.
Oh, it's always a really fun concept unless it rains, right?
Oh yeah, that was the scare last night.
Problem.
It held off, right?
Yes.
They were very worried about that. Here was last night's score bug, by the way, and obviously the big old Netflix.
Wow,
so it's a little bit.
That's bigger than the previous one.
Yeah, I mean it was fine, I guess. But then here and now, but then we go from that and we go back to when it was on Fox in 2022, And I think everybody has much more romantic feelings about this one because it was very it was very Field of Dreams-esque. Like it looked like,
That's a great score bug.
yeah, that one was kind of the way to go with the Yankees and the White
That's
Sox there. Of course, Tim
That's
Anderson.
Zach Britton, isn't it?
That is Zach
Yeah.
Britton with the High Sox there.
And is that Tim Anderson who
And
just
Tim
retired?
Anderson,
Tim
who just
Anderson.
retired. Yep.
Yeah.
Poor Tim Anderson. Felt like he was going to be, Mike Trout.
He was going
Like,
to be a great
he
player.
was- yeah. Yeah, we thought he was going to be Hall of Fame. I mean,
He pulled an
seeds.
Adley Rutschman.
Tim Anderson pulled an Adley Rutschman but he kept getting hurt and underperforming. I guess
Underperforming. Yes. Yeah.
So hopefully they do it again. I mean, obviously it was a combination of luck, but I think they also did it well. Cal Ripken was there last night. They had all the Hall of Famers walk out of the cornfield, which was great, But yeah, it was fine. I don't think anything's going to live up to. It's going to be really hard to live up to that. Maybe they should play a playoff series. What if they played a playoff series? What if they did the World Series in Dyersville? No, you're not into
I feel
that?
like it'd be pretty cold by then in Iowa.
Yeah, but baseball's a cold weather game. No. How about Monday night stand? The other biggest story in base. This was probably maybe still is kind of bigger than what happened the other last night at the Field of Dreams game. Did you see what happened Monday night in Toronto, Stan?
Yeah, I heard about it last night. I'd heard there was a whole controversy, and I have to be honest, I've never heard of the concept of a team being hit up for abandoning the field when they thought there were 3 outs. And that's what happened in this game.
I heard that Glenn and Griffin had quite a lengthy discussion about this.
We did. Glenn was bored, I guess, on Tuesday, and I think we had guests on Tuesday. We had Marvin Lewis joined us on Tuesday, but apparently it was still a boring enough show that Stan or Glenn rather, Glenn wanted to talk. For like an hour we argued over this, kind of. I mean, we didn't really settle
For
anything.
an hour?
An hour? Yeah. And then we talked about it again, for another 15, 20 minutes.
Had either
yesterday.
one of you ever heard of that before?
No. But I mean, I think it makes sense. So the real issue is there was an angle that came out, I think Wednesday maybe, and you could so there was a scoreboard issue, and the umpires
the
also
scoreboard had the wrong number of outs up.
Yes, the scoreboard, there was a line drive that I think skipped off the dirt, and so they got a force out at second. There was first and second with nobody out, and they flipped the ball to second, and I think the scoreboard operator thought that it was caught in the air, and they doubled up the guy.
Double play. Okay.
Yeah. So it said 2 outs for maybe 20 seconds on the scoreboard, maybe 25 seconds on the scoreboard. But the run at first was safe, the run at third was safe, so everyone knew it was first and third. But the scoreboard in Rogers Center said 2 outs.
Right.
And honestly, the real issue is that I forget who was at bat. Oh, it was Rafaela. Rafaela swung at the first pitch, flies out to center field. And you can see from the home plate angle that the scoreboard says 2 outs. And then as the ball is hit into the air, it switches back to 1. So you can kind of think, okay, so the runners must have looked at the scoreboard, 2 outs, got it. So I'm running on contact here. If Rafaela takes the first pitch, it's like, okay, then nothing. This whole nonsense probably doesn't even happen, right?
Do players? Is it assumed that players look at the scoreboard to learn how many outs there are?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, it's not like I don't think it's like Little League anymore, where the shortstop says, "Hey, 2 down, we're rolling 2, or 1 down, we're rolling 2 here."
The scoreboard is not the official. The umpires and the coaches.
I agree, but this is where the confusion came from. Because also when you watch the play, the catcher and the pitcher, Simeon Woods Richardson, they immediately dap each other up.
Griffin is freezing up on us.
Outs. There was not, so Toronto doubles up the guy at first. And Siegler, who was on third, since they doubled him up at first, everybody left the field. And since everyone left the field, they couldn't get the 4th out. So they're allowed to do that. They could have thrown it over to third, touched the base, and then Siegler would have been out. But since they didn't do that, and they switched the inning, I love that you hate this.
Well, Well, I hate partially because you got frozen for like
I did.
20 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
It's
So it
not
was
your
first and third.
fault. It's just,
Okay. Anyway, the other thing is the home plate umpire also screwed this up. Toronto, John Schneider should have gotten livid about this, but for whatever reason he didn't. The home plate umpire pointed at the plate and said, "No run scores." So that was before they went to review. And so I don't know if anyone on Toronto was actually watching the umpire, but assuming if someone had seen that a run had scored, they might have stayed on the field and tried to get this fourth out, or at least appealed the third or something.
The third out was recorded, and they pointed at home plate that no run was scored.
Yeah, so I think that's where the issue,
to me, supersedes their abandoning the field on the play. So,
I think
anyway.
I don't disagree.
At any point in this
we're not going to discuss this.
Did
for
Ernie
an hour.
Clement run into right field and was ruled to have stayed in the baseline?
That was what I brought up. What?
It's probably the same.
Are we sure all these guys were in the baseline? Anyway, the story's funny. I mean, it gets even more because John Schneider, Max Scherzer was also involved in a similar play. Max Scherzer's rookie year, he was on the opposing team. He was in the dugout as well when this happened to I think Dan Herron, in the Giants. He was on the D-backs at that time. So he saw this play, so he knew what was going on, and of course he was in the Blue Jays dugout as well, and he was the one that pointed out. Max Scherzer was the one that pointed out. The umpire said the run didn't score. That's why we didn't react. John Schneider was also apparently involved in the same play in the minor leagues when he was with the Lansing Lugnuts 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago to the day. There was a similar play in a Lansing Lugnuts game with John Schneider.
Did the Ravens finally have recourse for the scoreboard showing third down before that Cundiff miss? No. Okay. Guess not.
No. I don't think they have.
Okay.
I don't think they have. Well,
what else in this week in the rest of baseball?
You don't want to argue about this for 45 minutes?
No, I don't want to argue about it.
For the first time since this is the latest time, obviously no longer Schwarber homered last night, so he has the home run lead currently. But before last night, there was a 4-way tie for the MLB home run lead. Those 4 players were Stan, who?
Jordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Junior Caminero.
Correct.
Schwarber. And one more player. Not Murakami because he missed 60
Yeah, he missed
games.
a couple weeks.
He missed more than a
month and a half, yeah.
I
traded for him. He hit a home run the day I traded for him.
Yeah.
Pulled his hamstring the next day.
Can't remember who.
Matt Olson also has 35 home runs. Okay. But now Schwarber he had 2 home runs last night, so he has 37. He's in the sole
And
position.
did I hear them talking about that all the home runs that get hit in the cornfields are still out there?
They said that at the end of the broadcast. I
seems like
I don't know why they wouldn't get them.
It seems like those balls would have like a great value to auction off for charity, Anyway.
I agree. I would assume they picked them up by now. Maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't.
I don't know.
Like that Tim Anderson ball, I'm sure whoever has that is or maybe they put that in the Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Maybe it's laying out there in the cornfield.
Probably a little waterlogged at this point, right?
Anyway, the last time there was a 4-way tie this late into the season, got to go back to September of 1982, Stan. That 4-way tie was...
Oh, man, those 4 players were unbelievable.
Get one of them.
Get one of them?
Yeah, I think he won MVP this year.
1982.
National League MVP this year. Or maybe he won in 84.
Keith Hernandez.
Not Keith Hernandez.
Willie Stargell.
Not Willie Stargell. Yeah, not Willie Stargell.
1982. How about Pedro Guerrero?
He won back-to-back NL MVPs in 82 and 83.
Dale Murphy?
Dale Murphy was part of this 4-way tie for the home run lead. Him alongside Dave Kingman, Gorman Thomas, and Reggie Jackson. All were
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Chicago White Sox, Stan, they're winning the World Series this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Jay Kuda, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jay Kuda, but he's a very funny Twitter follow where he'll pull the most random stats ever. Sometimes they're very obvious, and that's kind of like his shtick, is that they're just very obvious. Sometimes they're they're actually more like more in depth and thought out. Here, I want to share this one. So he compared the Chicago White Sox run this season in 2026 to the Atlanta Braves in 2021, when the Braves, of course, won the World Series. There we go. Can you guys see that now? You go to every benchmark. Braves, White Sox, yeah, almost the same record, 62 and 57
Unbelievable.
after 119 games. Sean Newcomb is on both teams. An Acuna brother playing for both teams. The month that both managers were born.
It looks like a fait accompli.
That's the point. Yeah. So go ahead and get your White Sox futures in. They are winning the World Series according to Jay Kuda. So
okay.
So that, also in White Sox land, Stan, did you see their promotion this week? It was the Pope hat giveaway on Tuesday night.
No, I did not see the Pope hat.
Pope hat giveaway.
I saw the Pope hat. Yeah, there were like 40,000 of them, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool giveaway. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like God was on the side of the White Sox though. They lost 5-4.
Do we have a picture of the Pope hat?
I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
They lost 5-4 in extras to the Reds. So I guess God, not a White Sox fan, unfortunately.
Okay.
Let's see if there's loads. But you can kind of see it.
No, it kind of disappeared on my screen. It was up for about a quarter of a second, and now it's disappeared.
It was a great quarter of a second, though.
Yeah, it was great, though, for a quarter of a second. Okay. I think Griffin is frozen again.
Is he?
Yeah.
There we go. You got me? Okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry. I think I keep sharing my screen. Maybe that's the issue.
I think that might be it.
Do the Orioles need to do a Pope hat giveaway, Stan?
No.
You know
because
what I mean?
the Orioles have nothing to do with the Pope.
What about a yarmulke giveaway? Should we do that?
A yarmulke giveaway would be a great night. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'll settle for an Elaine Bennett's bobblehead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm down for that as well.
Like the Yankees keep doing these George Costanza.
They do it like every couple of years. It feels like.
I know.
It's a hit every time.
Do we have a picture, Griff, of the Beavers bobblehead given away?
That was great. That was a great bobblehead.
Oh yeah, that was. I keep losing connection every time I pull something up. Those.
All right, then don't pull it.
Okay. All right. We're almost done.
That's a look at this week.
No, there's one more, Stan. One more.
Okay.
Austin Hayes is back. He's with the Padres now. Homered in his first game with the Padres. With part of their big win over Houston.
I was watching when that happened. Yeah.
Yep.
They brought him in to hit left-handers.
Yep.
And then he immediately hit a home run against a left-hander. How about it?
Great. I was very happy for us.
One more funny one, Stan. Anthony Volpe's back in AAA with the Yankees, and he's with the Scranton Rail Riders. He lost, I think it was maybe it was Wednesday night. He lost the Rail Riders, both of the team's challenges in his first at-bat. He led off the game. First at-bat of the game. He lost both of their challenges in the first at-bat, so 6 pitches in. And the first challenge was a 3-0 pitch that, it was borderline, I guess, but it was called a strike. Volpe challenged it, and it got confirmed a strike, and then he ends up striking out, and he challenges the strike 3 pitch, which was like right down the middle. So he lost both their two.
Sounds like he's a little upset at being in AAA.
He's got
maybe, but then he was laughing. He was laughing all the way back to the dugout. He was like, "Oh no, oh silly me." Yeah,
it seems like some teams have like no rhyme or reason as to when challenges are used. It seems like catchers have pretty much free reign to challenge when they see fit, but some of these hitters' challenges in like the lowest leverage spots possible,
right?
Over like
a 1-1
super
count,
borderline,
a 1-0 count
pitches, like no one on, 2 out. It's like okay, all right.
Is that it for this week?
That is it. It was a busy week in baseball, Stan.
All right, get out to the beach, Griffin. All right,
I will. Thanks, guys.
Right. For Griffin Bass and Luke Jackson, I'm Stan the Fan Charles. Luke and I and Ross Grimsley Monday at 5 o'clock. Glenn Clark will be back Monday through Thursday, and we'll be back in studio next week. Correct, Griffin?
Correct.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy your weekend and go O's. Bye for now.